to patch me up. I feel lost, I feel lost. Will you be my love? 'Cause I need you.
Hi there, this is Miss Vix from IMVU. I'm not sure whether you can hear me properly. Can you hear me there, Blaze? Hi there, this is Miss Vix from IMVU. I'm not sure whether you can hear me properly. Can you hear me there, Blaze? I think I need to turn off this mute here. Miss Vix from IMVU. You can hear me, right? Just making sure. I've got things all over the place. You can hear me, right? Just making sure. I think I've got another watch and stream here to turn that off. Doubling up in sound. All good? Voice is coming through good? Great. Okay, so I'm going to finish up on this lesson. I've had a few people ask me to finish up from last week when I did the IMVU Creators Most Wanted. There was just too much going on in there for me to try and teach everything or teach the things that I wanted to teach. We had Laura and Max Smoke in there as well, and then there was just the chat. I couldn't teach anything, so I'm going to continue on to teach what I was starting before with the pattern layers. I've had a few people actually ask me now to continue that on and continue that on with the patterns. They were asking me where you could get the patterns from, the Photoshop patterns. They were asking me a little bit more information on how to create them. So I'm just going to continue that on with, well, I'm going to touch base on a few things with the, also with creating clipping masks for a ground texture. So I'm going to get started. So last time when I was doing it on the IMVU Creators Most Wanted, started with you're not a creator yet, Blaze? Oh, I'm surprised that you're not a creator yet. There's just so many creators out there and so many awesome talent, and it's just so fun to do. Just so fun to do when you can do it yourself. I use Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop, and I use Autodesk Max to create the 3D products, but you'd start off in a GIMP program, something like that. So I'm going to get started. We're just going to make the simple grass texture for now. You want a 256 by 256. So we're going to be texturing the same textured product that I had before. Where is it? This one here. I'm going to be deriving this one. So we're going to grab that. We're going to open up our Creator menu. Derive a new product. I'm going to put the PID in there. So the same Halloween room is what I used for the IMVU Creators Most Wanted. I'm just going to continue on this texture that I did with the grass. I want to show you a few extra things you can do with clipping masks. So we're going to start with what we did before. We just used a green colour and the black. We're going to fill that in. We're going to go to filter, noise. We're going to add some noise in there. I'm going to maximize this up a little bit so that you can see what's happening. It might have needed to be a little bit darker, I think, for grass. Let's try it again. A little bit darker, like that. Add a new layer. We want to add a little bit of shading on there. I might build another layer on top of this first though. I want to build a bit of brown, add a bit of brown in there for a little bit of dirt in between, and then we can just make the opacity a little bit lower. So we're going to add this. There's two different layers here, of course. I'm going to make this layer from background so that's a usable layer. Actually, I keep forgetting that the pop-up window comes on my other screen, so I'm going to have to pull it over when needed. So we're going to go filter, noise, add some noise again, make it a little bit brighter like that. We're going to change the opacity down a little bit more. We might actually bring up this layer style and blend it in a little bit more. Bring that down, just to add a little bit of brown color. It's hard to see from here, but when you you get it in your client, it makes a great difference. See, it just changes the texture of it. If I put this into IMVU now, say I save for web devices, I'm not sure where this is going to save it. It's going to save it in there. Let's find the desktop project folder, textures. We'll try it in here. Grass. Oh, we don't want. We'll save that as a PNG for now, but we don't want PNG. I want to save it as a JPEG, so I'm going to save it again. Change this to JPEG. And that's the maximum quality, but we can change that later. We can bring it down a little bit more. So grass, test one. Come into IMVU. Let's just try this on here, see what it looks like. What do we have here? Grass, test one. Looks a little bit like grass, but we really want to make a bit more of a difference there. It looks very sameness everywhere. Now grass is never the same. It always has a little bit of shading here and there. It always changes up. So we want to add a little bit more detail in there as well. For now, it's just looking a little bit bland. So I'm going back in here. Going back in here, and I'm going to add another layer. So we can either go down here to this Photoshop here, add another layer like that. I've just made a habit of just going new layer. So, but you can use these little buttons down the bottom here. Okay, so a new layer. I'm going to add a little bit of shading to it. So I'm going to go black and white to this layer. I'm going to go filter. And then I want to go to render and render with clouds. So we've got some different clouds there. You can just go filter again, or Control F actually does it. If you go Control F, it just continually, you know, whichever one you want to pick. These are sort of just variations. I use it for shading. Okay, Blaze, no problem. I'll catch you later. I really hope you do start up creating. Creating is so much fun. Just being able to do and make whatever you want. You know, it's whatever your imagination comes up with, and it's a lot of fun. I find it a lot of fun. I'll catch you later. Bye for now. Okay, so continuing on here, I'm going to add a bit of shading. I'm going to put the blending mode to multiply. Now multiply, what it does is it removes any of the white and it leaves the dark patches. You know, your blacks and those sort of dark patches, and it's just great for adding a bit of shading. As you see there, it's just changed into darkness, and and it's adding a lot more shading around, so it's not so bland. It's all, you know, it's a little bit different in patches, darker patches and lighter patches. It makes it look like as if a tree is shading it, and it's giving it a bit of dark colours and a bit of light colours. So if we've got, go back here, and we'll save this out. We'll save it as the same one we had before. Grass test, replace, come back in here and we'll try this. We could even make this, it might be a bit too dark, change it to be a little bit lighter. We're just playing with the texture so that just to see what it makes, you know, whether it looks good by the end of it. Okay, replacing this, bring it back in here. Just trying to go as fast as you can because I know this is a little monotonous. You can really be picky with what you want to do. But see how it's got lighter patches in here and darker patches in there. That's fine for me for now. So I'm going to create a new layer. Literally, when I create a texture, it's just so many layers on top of layers. This one we're just going to make white because I want to add a pattern on this one. Now, patterns are, if you double click your layer, it brings up this layer style pattern, panel. And you have a lot of different layers that you can choose from. You can choose your gradient layers if you want. A color overlay, you can change this, you know, to any color you like. Just, you know, running quickly through these, I don't want to use that. You can change it to satin, which just changes the, or you can change the contours of it, just gives it a little bit of extra. These are, you know, fun things to play with. It might be what you need at the time, might not be. I'm wanting to use this pattern overlay. Now what pattern overlay does is you can get a lot of patterns online for free for your Photoshop. You install your patterns into your pattern folder. I'm not going to run through that right now with you, but you just Google patterns and like Photoshop patterns, and you'll find a lot of free ones out there to use. You can create your own patterns off of any texture. If you went outside, took a picture of a tree bark or a leaf, you can bring that, you know, that photo in. You can cut out a little bit of what you like. You can make it seamless, and then you can write. I'll just show you really quickly. Say I've got. Let's see if we can open up something here. Let me just take that over the other side. Never know what will open up. I'm just going to go to the desktop. Project textures. I think I had some textures in here somewhere. Let me have a look. If I can find them. Reference images. So for choosing a reference image. So okay, so let's say you've taken a photo outside of an image like this of a piece of bark, just from, you know, with your own normal regular camera that you've got from your phone. You can take a picture of that. Let's minimize this image size to just a workable image, 256 by 256, because that's the size that we're going to use in IMVU anyway. So it's best to go with that. We want to go with best for reduction so that it keeps as much quality as possible in there. I'm going to bring this up. This image is not seamless. There are programs out there that you can use to create your seamless texture. For me, I use a Photoshop plugin that is called Seamless Textures Generator. What that does is it'll tile your image if you need it, but it doesn't always turn out the best. So if I was to tile this image right now, let's save this out first. Save as bark 256, just so I don't lose this one. JPEG. So that's saved out. If I was to tile this, this is what this seamless generator does. If I was to tile this, it does it all automatically for you. It'll range. So what it's doing is it's reading. See how it's tiled it all around here? Now this image here will be tiled. So this is called Seamless Texture Generator. You can just, it's from the orange box. You can look up online. I'm not sure what Photoshop version you have. Some Photoshops don't actually install it anymore. So you probably need an older one. This one's CS5. and I've stuck with this one for you know, quite a few years now, just because I enjoy it. So if I was to save this particular picture out now, file, save for web, save it as a JPEG, highest quality, we're going to do this, and right there, seamless. Okay, so I'm just closing this out, or we won't close it, we'll too late, I did. Okay, we'll open, what did I do with the seamless? I think I may put it in the other folder. Let's have a look. Trick or treat textures, project textures, this one here, seamless. So I want to take this one, which is the seamless textures. It's best to use seamless ones for your patterns. If you do not use seamless for your patterns, you know, if you go to maximize it or minimize it, say you want smaller bark, if you go to do that, it will go all blurry and just wrong. So I'm going to image, and I'm going to desaturate this because we don't need color. I don't really want color in at all for a pattern. I would prefer it to be this and then add the color underneath or add the color on top. So for us, we're going to go that, and we're going to go, we're going to brighten it up a bit so it's not so dark, and we're going to contrast it to get a lot more detail happening in there, the grooves, and a lot more detail. Okay, so we're going to say, we're going to go edit, we're going to go down here to define pattern. So this will be bark, seamless, 256. We might make this number 1. Okay, so now we've got our bark texture, our bark pattern, I should say. We open back up the one that we were doing here, double click here. We're going to go to pattern overlay. It usually saves the last one that you've done on the end. It'll look a little bit blurry because I've got this maximized, this image here maximized, but once you bring it down, it'll be fine. So you choose that one, click OK. Oh, we're going to go to multiply. So always use the blending option, multiply. Then we're going to go to this blending option, styles at the top for the whole overall image. We're going to multiply that as well so that it brings it down. And I don't know why I've used bark when I want to use grass texture, but I was just sort of showing you how to make your bark texture. You will see that on here. If I if I make this texture underneath a lot brighter, I think it was the brown as well that needed to be a lot brighter. Anyway, I don't want to do the bark texture. You know, I'm wanting to do a grass overlay. I think I've got a grass overlay here somewhere. Is that grass? Nope. I've probably got it written on there somewhere. Let me have a look. Wood planks, grass. There we go. Okay, and what this is going to do, if I change this image to a different color, you will see just the little tiny speckles. I mean, it's hard to see from this particular image, but if you have a look closely, you will see the different, you know, the little tiny grass bits in it. If I bring it right up in color, you'll probably see it a lot better. I might just take that off. You see the little tiny grass specks? You know, it looks a lot more like grass than what it did before. If I went down, you won't see that because, you know, you want to bring it right up in size so that I can show it to you anyway. Make this in size just 250. Okay. See the little specks? That's the grass. If I take that off, it's just nothing. If I put it on, it's just grass. And I've added a color overlay, and I shouldn't have added the color overlay on that. because what it's done is it's taken all the little specks out. I only just added the colour overlay to show you the little extras, but this was the noise on that, so that's, you know, where the texture is looking at the moment. If I wanted to vary this colour, I can vary this colour. I can go up to filter, I can come, image, come down here, and I can go to variations. Okay, and I can change this colour to add a little bit more red, or, you know, to be a little bit lighter, darker, whatever colour I want. I can go pink if I want. We're going to change back here. We might go just a little bit more red, and I'll just change it on here. So let's, that's too dark. Might change this again, image variations. Might go a little bit, change that back. Might go a little bit lighter, I think. Bring it up a little. Doesn't look very green there. Change this. Image. Anyway, you get the point. You can fuss around with it enough. I don't want to fuss around with it too much because I want to show you other things. So let's say for this, for the web device, it really is just a matter of playing around, seeing what looks good. Always bring it into client. Always try it out as you're going along, so that you can see what's looking a lot better. Now that is looking to me a lot more like grass, a lot more like grass texture. I could add in there a bit of dirt in between, you know, a bit of dirt here and there if I wanted to. But with this seamless one, you really want it to be, you know, you don't want little patches of dirt everywhere that look exactly the same. Now, as I was saying before, with the IMVU stream, I use vertex shading a lot for my products. If I took the vertex shading off, you will see the monotonous of the pattern with the tiling of the texture. That's the reason why I use vertex shading built into my mesh, because you know, it changes up things and it doesn't look so monotonous. And I can add shade, you know, shade dark out here where the light wouldn't be. I wanted to bring the light in here in the middle to make sure that, you know, if the pumpkins were lights or the house was shining a light out here, it'll show it outside here, but not out here. I didn't want it to show out there. So that's where the vertex comes into it. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. If you just want a big open world like that, you're welcome to, you know, take off the vertex shading and use it. Okay, now I want to add, I saw one of the derivers place leaves on top of her grass texture, and I thought that was something worth showing you a little bit on how to do. How are we going for time here? I just want to make this a 1 hour lesson, so I think we've got plenty of time right now. Okay, so we've got our grass. I'm going to add now some leaves on that, and I'm going to use the Photoshop brushes for that. This is another thing that you can install into your Photoshop. I used to have so many brushes. Now this month I've changed over computers, so I don't have as many of my brushes in here. I'm going to have to transfer some over from my old computer to this one. I just haven't got around to it yet. It's just one of those things that I end up with lots and lots and lots of Photoshop brushes. Now I'm going to show you another texture that I started, or I showed you a little bit about leaves. See these leaves here? This was a grass texture that I made up before. I'll minimize that. This is one that I spent a little bit more time on with the grass, but okay, so these leaves on top of here, if I place this on the texture, let's make this 100. Sometimes I work with a 512 texture rather than a 256, and then I'll just bring it down in size. It's always better to probably work with one that's a lot higher, than that way you've got more room to move. Okay, so let's test this on this. This was this one. That's what the leaves look like when we get them on. Now you can do anything with these leaves. You can change the colours on them. Now I'll show you how I did the leaves. Let's bring this other texture back up. Very time consuming, and this is something that, you know, you spend hours doing these textures, and I'm only going to show you how I started doing it. So when you want to go into your brushes, you see this little, click this little link here and it'll open up all your brushes. These are obviously ones that I've got in here. I'm going to load some brushes, Halloween brushes. Let's find some leaves brushes. I think I've got some nature here somewhere, leaf brushes. Okay, so one of these brushes, we want to bring it right down so that it's just a little tiny leaf. Now I'm going to just texture in white, and we're going to use a new layer, always a new layer. Now I'm going to just do one tiny little leaf for now, like that. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that leaf, and this is really where it gets time consuming, just setting up your leaf packs. Now once you've made these leaf textures, you'll always have them, you can always reuse them. So, you know, this is just adding layer on top of layer at the moment. We want to bring them all around. We might make this one a little bit bigger to make it look, it does look a little bit blurry just because I've maximized this up. If I was working at 512, it'll be you know, be a lot less blurry. So I probably should work in 512. Let's just, if I resize this now, it's going to make this grass quite blurry, I think. Let's try it. We'll bring this down to 150. Yeah, it's pretty much made it blurry. I might actually just show you in here. Minimize all this. So you get the idea with the leaves here. So what I have done is I've just, these are a lot more higher detailed because it's a 525. So what I've done is similar to what I was doing here, just making different leaves, a lot of different leaves. And once you've got those leaves, you then layer, you want to minimize all this, remove all those shown layers, because what I want to do is I want layer merge visible. You can turn these back on if you want. So now it's got that, and then I'll just use that, and I'll duplicate this, duplicate, and then bring it somewhere else. Pre-transform, and then we'll rotate this around, and then I've just placed them and placed them and placed them, and then I've done the same thing, layered them down, so until you get your leaf texture, which looks like this, which will look like this texture here, right? And then I've just taken that leaf texture and I've duplicated it many times so that it'll end up being, you know, they might have some over the side, some over the side. Let's step back over what I have had before. I think that was it. And then I've just added more. Okay, so I've added more, and I've added more, and I've added more to all those. Now, I know they're white, but the whole plan is we're going to grab a reference texture, file, new reference texture. No, file, open. We're going to grab a reference texture here, so reference image. Yeah, of all these different color leaves. All we need is a reference so that we can see what sort of colors and autumn colors might be, and that's all I wanted the reference texture for, is to pick the color palette. Okay, so say we'll pick maybe red for now. This image here, I'm going to make a copy of this layer, duplicate this. Let's turn off all the others first, so that I'm just working with one. So I've just got the one here, right? We want to make sure that we don't have half a leaf. If you have half a leaf, well then it's not seamless. So we want to bring it out so that there's no half a leaf there, otherwise you're going to notice that quite a lot on your texture. So we're going to duplicate this, duplicate this layer. We're going to change this layer here into a clipping, create a clipping mask. So we use that, create clipping mask, and the reason why we're doing that now is because whatever we paint on here, let's go back to a big brush, right? Whatever we paint, it will only paint in that that leaf. So it'll only paint within that leaf. It won't paint outside the leaf. Like if we paint out here, it won't paint on our grass, won't paint anywhere else, but it'll paint just in that stencil. And you can see here how it's painting all over that, but it's only showing what the stencil is showing up as. So that's what a clipping mask does. And I use a clipping mask for a lot of things when I'm using, when I'm painting different textures. So if I come in here and I wanted to change this sort of, the middle of it or something to a different color, maybe a bit more lighter, and we'll get down in here. You know, you can spend hours doing this, a little bit lighter on the leaves, you know, to make it look a little bit more realistic, a little bit lighter in the leaf bits, or you can change them up to whatever you want to do, whatever you want to paint on them. We want to make it look a little bit realistic on your texture. So we'll just add it all in here. They've already got a bit of blackness to it from the stencil, from the paintbrush. But you can spend hours doing this as well. But once you've got textures like this, you can use them over and over and over again. So it's never a waste of time to create your own textures because they are unique. They are never like anybody else's. I mean, you can buy textures, and I won't say that I don't, because I'm a 3D artist and it takes a lot of time to create models. So there are times, there is a lot of texture artists out there that make a living out of selling their textures. So I don't mind supporting them as well, and it saves me a lot of time sometimes. Now, there are some people that you know, that's their profession to create textures like this and to spend the time to create textures like this. So there are a few sites out there that I do buy from, and you pay for the license to use this texture. But when you're doing that, everybody else has got a chance to do, you know, to get the exact same texture as you, and you're not unique. Your products are not, you know, not as unique. For me, it doesn't bother me so much because I'm a 3D artist. I'm not a texture artist. So for me, unless I really wanted to have something unique, I just wouldn't. You know, there are a lot of times where I'll just use a paid, you know, bought texture. But I don't have the luxury of time of just spending here doing textures all the time. Although I love doing it. It's just I would never get products out if I don't. I'd never get meshes out if I spend all this time doing textures as well. And you know, I don't like to do too many great textures. If I do too many, or then my derivers sit back and they say, oh, I don't want to. You know, I can't do any better than what you've already done, so I won't bother to derive it. And I don't want to take away from their ability to create as well. I already do the 3D product, you know, the mesh. I don't need to texture it perfectly as well. Okay, so that is just one. If I went on to another one, I'd do the same thing, which I have done in yellow. I haven't done any other color. You know, I've just sort of picked colors that are on this autumn leaf. Picked colors. You know, just the different colors, and then varied them all around. You can add more if you want, you can add less if you want. Let's save this out. Now I've done this as 512, so I've got to make sure always change the size down to 256. You don't want it to be too heavy at all, and you got to be careful. See, this is 103. You can change this quality to say high. You can also optimize them later on. I can do a lesson on optimization. If if anyone watching this wants that, please feel free to let me know if you want to see anything else. Let's make this leaf 2. We'll go in here, put this in. And there's your leaf texture. So that looks, as far as I am, pretty good. You can just make it plain dead leaves if you like. There's a lot of different paintbrushes out there that you can use for your Photoshop. So many paintbrushes. The clipping masks are just a great way for you to sit there and draw, you know, colour in your lines, colour in your paintbrushes that you've got. If you know, there is so many different leaves that you could have used. Oh, that's not a very good looking leaf, to be honest. But there's a lot of different leaves and a lot of different things that you can use. But I think that's a nice leaf. I think that's gonna, if I duplicated this here, duplicate layer, and if I made this into a clipping mask, and if then I coloured this a different colour, make it a green or yellow, change this, nice little yellow tips on that. So you can see how it's very, very useful for doing the clipping mask. You don't have to sit there for ages and try and get within the lines. And that's how I definitely wanted to show you last Thursday's lesson, but I didn't get there. There was just too much going on. Bit of colour here. Oh, that's about the same colour. Make it a bit darker. There, nice little leaf. You can see how great the clipping masks are to use. Okay, well, I think that's it. That's all I wanted to show you for today. Just that extra ground texture. You know, I might do another next lesson on texture maps, but I don't want to make each of these lessons long lessons. I just want to do a few little things as we're going along. I'll do one on flowers. This is how I made my same flowers as well. I just got a paintbrush, found it a really nice flower texture, and then just changed it, you know, made a clipping mask and changed the colours in there, painted in here. The grass, I could have done with better grass than what I did. I will teach you how to do a grass texture as well one day, but please, if you enjoyed today's lesson, please just send me a message. Let me know what you would like to, learn, what sort of textures you would like to learn. Maybe you want to learn a bit about shine, you want to learn a bit about neon colours, or anything. Just please give me a shout, leave a message on my homepage. I'm sure you all know how to find me. All my social media is below. So you can, if you don't get to IMVU, you wanted to see something else, you can leave a message on my my Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, all of those. But textures, I mean, I've only showed you just the tip of the iceberg. You can sit for hours and do them. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that I don't work for IMVU. I work in IMVU, so I'm not a staff member at all. I'm just a creator. I've been in IMVU since 2007, so that's 11 years now, and I've been creating for almost that whole time. Okay, I'm going to end it here. Hope you enjoyed seeing something. I hope you learnt a little bit of something to have fun texturing, and I'll see you all later. Bye.